So the next section of our evening will be questions from the audience. If you have any questions that have not yet been picked up, please go ahead and raise your hand, and our volunteers will come and collect them. And we will continue with having 2 candidates address each question with 1 minute to respond. You have a particular order for me? Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So the first audience question is going to be for Shamann and Sandra. Here we go. Much of what the Board of Education has done around the superintendent zones is admirable, yet many schools with comparable challenges are not included in the zones. What is your plan to address such schools? And how will you address the superintendent zone schools when the SIG money runs out? Is the question clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Shamann.
Again, I think going back to one of the major things about my platform is resources. We know that superintendent zone schools have seen gains, but adverse to what was stated earlier, that's one-time funding that the current board does not know where the resources are going to come from later. But getting back to my point, working with city leadership and leveraging resources from the money that comes into San Francisco currently. As executive director of Young Community Developers, we've raised over $2 million in 2 years from leveraging these very resources. Funding from Parsons and AECOM, developers and engineering architecture firms, funding from federal government, EPA, working on building programs right now with millions of dollars from these entities. You have to leverage the resources that are available. If you want to get somewhere you've never been, you have to do something you've never done. And going after private, foundation, and alternative resources is something that we have to do.
Okay, Sandra?
Yes, thank you. So there is a sort of an arbitrariness to the schools in the zones. Are they the only high-need schools? Absolutely not. We have other schools that are high-need too. Because of their close proximity, because of just the decades of low performance in these areas that we created these 2 zones, one in the Mission and one in the Bayview. But we have used this money very strategically. We have used this one-time money to actually be an incubator for the best practices. So we have given a lot of money toward coaching, professional development, common planning time for teachers, so that these teachers, hopefully, can go out and teach other teachers. We have taken all the sort of kinks out of it. We've got the best practices nationwide, research-based, and actually put them in these schools. And that is why the schools in the zone had triple the achievement of our district's achievement. So this is how we can actually extend it to other schools and sustain this type of growth even after the SIG money is gone.
Thank you. This question is for Rachel and Beverly. It comes from a student. And the question is, can you improve school lunch? Yay! I'm so happy I got that question.
Improving school student nutrition and the quality of lunches served to students is a major priority of mine for a second term. And I'm really, really happy to say that I think there's a lot of interest at the top levels of the district in doing this, which there has really not been. And that's not to say anything bad about previous leadership. It's just to say that there's a lot of things that we have to do, and improving lunches just fell a little lower on the list for Carlos and his predecessors. Superintendent Carranza is very, very interested in this issue. We are actually convening an internal task force to really look at what would it take to be able to cook our own meals with fresh local foods as opposed to frozen meals that are cooked in Illinois and brought by truck to the district and then reheated at the school sites, which is what we have now. And I think that we will be able to do that. It's going to take investment and money that we don't have right now, but the first step is a plan, and we're actually moving ahead on that. So I'm very optimistic.
Beverly.
Definitely, I think there's a priority to do this, and having 2 young boys, sometimes I'm not sure what's really delicious for them. They like to throw away things anyway. But what we need to do is, I think, really continue the work that Rachel is talking about. There's the internal task force, there's an idea of having a centralized kitchen somewhere in San Francisco where we can have food that's fresh and that's shipped out to our students, not, across the nation. Also, something that I'd like to support is that to think about all of our equipment that we have in our kitchens. The equipment we have at Jose Ortega, as well as many school sites, are non-existent. The stoves don't work. The refrigerator is broken down. There are a lot of programs we can leverage to not only repair, but to replace such things. And it would be great to bring back the lunch lady, but in the meantime, we can have parents like myself and others come in, and they would volunteer to cook to help supplement our lunch program. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is for Paul and Sam. And the question is, what is your position on charter schools?
That's a tricky one. Charter schools, I know it's another option for parents to go to, but the one thing I never really, and I'm not sure if it's true, but I always understood that the charter schools, the teachers aren't required to have teaching credentials at the charter schools, so that kind of concerns me about that. And the other thing is that the charter schools are able to get rid of students that aren't, I think they pad their scores sometimes by getting rid of lower performing students. They can get rid of a student anytime they want, so I think that some of the statistics are padded in the charter schools that isn't fair. If the poor guy's doesn't look like he's going to score good on the test, a couple weeks later they might send him home or something like that. So, but at the same time, sometimes some of the charter schools are good for some of the kids, so that's something that I'm still, unsure about.
Okay. Sam?
We're on the stage because we believe in public education. It's the word public in education. It's not the word private. And I think as board members, we have to do everything in our power to make public investments in public institutions. We never talk about, we're going to have charter universities. We don't talk about privatizing the campus of UC or Cal State University because we made those early investments to have the best research universities in our state that competed with the private Stanfords and Harvards. We have to do the same thing for San Francisco. We have to make and bite the bullet and make those investments here in San Francisco, in particularly our workforce, our teachers and our paraprofessionals. Professional development is the lifeblood of a high-quality teaching education, and we have to make that commitment today.
Thank you. Okay, so I have some more audience questions in my hand. And what I'd like to do, because I believe, if my calculations are correct, and they could be off, that you've all had an opportunity to respond to 2 questions between the sponsor organizations in the first few audience questions. So what I'd like to do is open it up a bit and maybe read the question and invite 3 or 4 of you to respond if it feels like a question that you feel passionate about, and I'll sort of take notes and make sure everybody gets an equal chance to speak, and we can cycle through a few questions and maybe give you a chance to respond to questions that feel most relevant to you. So the next question is, please describe the last time you consulted with an in-the-trenches teacher. Any insights? Please describe the last time you consulted with an in-the-trenches teacher. Any insights? Who would like to respond to that question? Rachel would like to? Okay, so I see Rachel's hand. I see that Beverly would like to respond. I see Paul would like to respond. Jill, I think everybody wants to respond. Jill, Kim, how about if we stop there and then we'll move on to another question? Okay, so we're going to start with Rachel.
So I actually was campaigning at the Noe Valley Farmers Market 2 weekends ago, and I ran into a friend of mine who teaches at Moscone Elementary, one of the schools in the Mission District. It's a pretty high-performing school. It's a high-poverty, high-performing school, so we call it one of our outlier schools. It was great to see her. We sort of talked about, so what's going on the ground? And she said, well, you know, you guys are cutting our budget. We've lost a lot of money out of our budget, and we are such a successful school that what did we get out of our success? But you cut our budget. So now all the things that made us successful, we can't afford to do anymore. And that was pretty discouraging to hear. And I think that is exactly a perfect illustration of what happens when your budget decreases by 20% since I've gotten on the board. We have 20% less money and it has happened that when schools are successful, the money has to go somewhere else. And so it causes successful schools and successful teacher teams to feel very frustrated and demoralized. And that's a problem that we have to continue to work on and address.
Okay. Beverly, what insights have you received from In the Trenches teachers?
Well, I just had a discussion with one of my son's teachers, and I've talked to all of them, in addition to others on the campaign trail, and people that know me. And one of the things that I think that's very important to understand is that teachers feel that they're pushed. Every year, there are more and more goals and things that they have to do, and they're getting furlough days, and they have to spend more and more money out of pocket to make things happen. And they feel that they have to do that to make it successful in the classroom. They're getting stressed out. They don't feel appreciated, and I think it's really low morale. And they feel as if the board, as well as the district, doesn't really understand or empathize their situation. And I think it's coming from the heart. They feel frustrated. They're not sure what to do. And that's one thing that I've really noticed, and I'd like to change the relationship and dialogue.
Okay. Paul, do you want to talk about insights you've received from teachers lately?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What insights have you gotten from In the Trenches teachers
Well,
lately?
that's all I ever did was be in the trenches with teachers as a core substitute in San Francisco Unified School District from 1995 to 2003. All I ever did was work at the schools where substitutes wouldn't go and teachers would quit because the kids were so out of hand. I did that. I was at McAteer when I was a Thurgood Marshall when they had the riot. I was at McAteer when it was in its death throes, when packs of kids were walking around kicking doors in. I was so discouraged by that, I went back to USF to become a dean of students. I was lucky enough to get transferred to Galileo High School. When I started at Galileo High School, 2003 in January, it was the worst public school in town. The teachers, it was crazy. We went from a 1 to a 3 to a 5 to a 7 to an 8. We passed Washington and Lincoln in test scores. And teachers need to be supported. The kids need to be held accountable. Most of these low-performing schools, you'll find that the teachers aren't supported when it comes to disciplining the students. And I think that the restorative program they have at San Francisco Unified School District right now is probably one of the worst things that they've done as far as accountability for the students since I did 16 years there.
Okay. Jill, your teacher insights?
Actually, I just had a discussion with a group of teachers on Sunday afternoon from one of our zone schools. And one of the things that was really interesting to me, and they were talking about support. Of course, they were talking about the skipping vote. But what they were talking about was about their work as a team, about their collaborative work, and about, and really, they're really clear that they have resources that they aren't going to have in the future, what investments mean. And the insight really for me was that I realized that it would really be good if we could figure out a way to have an ongoing dialogue, not necessarily with those individual teachers. I mean, I don't require these people to talk to me or us on a regular basis, but rather if we had set up, as we have, for instance, for parents and students, a way for there to be sort of forums or roundtables, which the superintendent sometimes has, but we don't actually, where we could pose questions. We don't, in a formalized way, have an opportunity to get that kind of interaction with teachers and to have questions go back and forth that would inform policymaking.
Okay. Kim, you get the final response about teacher insights.
Well, as a veteran teacher of San Francisco Unified School District, when my colleagues heard that I was running, you can bet that I've been hearing a lot from them. And they say, when you win, if you do win, hopefully you will, don't forget us. Don't forget that we are under-resourced. Don't forget that we are not supported often. Don't forget that we need the resources to do the job the district is asking us to do. And as a bilingual teacher, I can say that the teachers, the immersion teachers, the bilingual teachers that I hear from constantly, like at Flynn Elementary with Cynthia Meza, I just talked to her recently, they don't have the resources in native language to effectively implement all of our wonderful immersion programs, and we're constantly coming up against that. We need to make sure that if we're implementing, improving, and moving forward in our language programs, we're giving the on-the-ground teachers what they need to successfully implement those programs.
Great, thank you. Okay, here's the next question. How can families and students be better informed about A to G requirements and track the progress of individual students? Okay, Shamann wants to respond to that. How can families and students be better informed about A to G requirements and track the progress of individual students? Anyone else interested in answering that question? Matt, you want to go for it? Okay. Yeah, Sandra? Sam, you haven't been in the fray yet. You want to take it or not so much?
Me?
I'm asking Sam. He hasn't
Sam?
responded. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay. So Shamann, you were right there. So why don't you start us off?
Coincidentally, yesterday I was at a meeting with one of the assistant superintendents, Janet Schultz, and she gathered a few community-based organization leaders at the district and in the board chambers to have this very conversation about how do we get the word out about A through G requirements in communities. So one is definitely hosting forums. It's really invited concentrated groups of people in concentrated neighborhoods to really give them the information that they need to understand what A through G requirements mean, what preparation looks like at all level before your child gets to high school to understand A through G requirements, but it's an education piece. And working closer with CBOs that are in the communities, working closer with organizations like Parents for Public Schools who provide advocacy and parent education, working closely with parents in all communities. But again, it's an education piece and bringing everyone to the table in all areas throughout San Francisco.
Okay, Sandra, would you like to respond to how you can better inform parents and families about A to G requirements?
Sure. So when I was at Coleman Advocates, we were the ones to really promote the A through G graduation requirement. And I just want to put a plug into it because A through G does two things if we do it right. It gives access to those students that never had access to the classes before. And if it works right, it gives them opportunity in the 21st century. So having said that, this is what we could do, is that I think counselors need to meet with every single student and go through a chart that tells them exactly what requirements are needed and where they are on track or not. Also, we need to go out to the communities that are not on the email list, that are not hooked into the internet, and really go out and explain to them. We can do that with our community partners. Coleman Advocates has done that for years. They have talked to thousands of parents about this A through G requirement. But when I go out to school sites, what I hear is that a lot of people still don't know about it. And when I first talked about A through G, I met with a middle school counselor who said to me, "What is that?" And so we also have to educate everybody on what the A through G requirements are.
Great, thanks. Matt, what is your perspective on A to G requirements?
Well, I think that we have to make sure that this is emphasized with students and with parents from a very early age, that we talk about this not just when folks are in high school, but before that. And then when our students are in high school, that the counselors are with a standardized form, as Sandy said, very regularly working with students and with families to make sure that they're making progress. And when that progress isn't being made, that students and families and parents understand that, and that they have an understanding of what the options are. And a lot of this has to do, and folks have talked about this, making sure that the credit recovery options are there for students, and that students are made aware of those options, particularly when they're falling behind in meeting on progress towards A through G requirements. So I think credit recovery is a huge part of it. Counseling and supporting counselors so that we have enough of them so that they can actually manage the number of students that they need, that actually makes this something that they can meet with students on a regular basis and let them know about these requirements, and then also make sure that the intervention is there so that when students are not making progress towards A through G requirements, that they're actually being provided the options for how they can catch up.
Okay, Sam, I dragged you into this question. You want to answer it?
Sure. I think everyone has basically created a platform, and then we have these realities. So, for example, yesterday I was meeting some middle school parents, and the first thing they said to me was, "Well, I can't get an appointment to go to a PTA meeting because my child has all A's," and they basically said that they don't have the time to meet with me, but I'll have to sort of get in queue. And so there is the real life, as Shamann says many times. You know, that's the real predicament. And Sandy's right, and Matt is right. We have tremendous parent engagement at the elementary level, and then in middle school it drops off, and we have to change that. And I know everyone here works towards it. So I have parent engagement organization. I have the Department of Health and Social Services that has to be integrated with the school system. I have interfaith organization institutions, and particularly in the African American and Latino and the Chinese community. I have advocacy groups. Coleman advocates have been tremendous in this field. And most importantly, we don't have enough counselors to have the individual academic plan, and everyone is correct. We have to make an investment to have more counselors at the middle school level. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful responses. And Paul, you're going to get your opportunity in just a second. So we're going to move on now to the final section of the evening, which is closing statements from the candidates. So each will have 30 seconds to offer their final thoughts, their parting thoughts to you. And we're going to start the furthest end of the table, so Paul will get to go first. And then we'll move down the table and finish with Jill. So your closing parting thoughts in 30 seconds. Paul, you get to start.
Hi. Well, I'd like to get your vote. I think that I would work hard at the San Francisco Unified School District. I have experience there. I've worked in every middle school and every high school in the district. I know every school. I know how hard teachers are working, how hard teachers work, and how to support the teachers. I would support the teachers and the principals all the way up to the school board. They could call me on my own cell phone if they have problems and talk about it, and I'd help them out. I know many teachers, and I would work hard to get things done.
Beverly.
Hi, I would love to have your vote. As a public school parent who has 2 kids right now in school, I really live and dream and work it every day, from homework to getting them off to school to just being there, perhaps on the weekends, and thinking about other things, how to make the school better. I would like to bring my perspective, my background, my expertise from my various work experience, being an educator in the nonprofit world, as well as my civil servants employment to the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra.
Yes, thank you. I just want everybody to know that I take my responsibility as a school board member very seriously. The day I was sworn in, I quit my job at Coleman Advocates, and this is what I do full time. And I take it very, very seriously. I attend all meetings. I take all votes, even the hard ones. I have a lot of invested here. You know, I have my children that graduated from San Francisco Unified, but really it's about all those children that are behind them. I believe public education is the foundation for our democracy. It is the most profound thing that we can give to our students so they can be productive in the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Just thank again the organizations that put this event together, and thank all of you for coming. You know, I think that one of the most important roles of a school board member is to be out there listening to folks in the community, and especially to parents and to students. And so I hope that, you know, there's a couple weeks left in this campaign, but I hope to be able to talk and meet many of you and to hear from you, because everyone has a different experience in the district, and it's bringing those experiences together and giving voice to them on the board and giving voice to them in the work that we do as a district. I think that is going to make us successful. Another thing I'd say is we need to get resources, and you should look to your board to do that, because that's how we're going to be able to continue many of the things that we're doing well. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel.
Serving on this board has been the hardest job I've ever done for the least amount of money. But it's been a privilege. And, you know, I see my husband in the front row, and it has not been such a privilege for him. But for me, it really has been a privilege. And I have been a very hardworking, a very responsive commissioner, and I would very, very much like the privilege of serving again for another term. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam.
Having the honor of having a second grader girl at a public school in San Francisco opens up your eyes, no matter what age you are. And one of the things that you'll see in me is a complete commitment to collaborate as a team, to work as a team with all of our stakeholders, the board and the city, and particularly the business community. But make no doubt, I am fixed in building a science, technology, and arts curriculum from preschool to 5th grade, because I believe that San Francisco can be the model of the entire state. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim?
Thank you so much for coming out and taking time to listen to us and ask such important questions. I believe that a fundamental role of a Board of Education Commissioner is to hold the district accountable. And I have done that as a veteran teacher of San Francisco Unified School District for teacher rights. I have also done that for the past 7 years as a parent in one of our superintendent's own schools. I believe that it is time that we have teacher voice on the Board of Education, and it is also time that we have parent voice from our superintendent zones.
Shamann?
I also want to thank everyone who put this forum together for the opportunity. I often tell my children, as well as children that I talk to on a consistent basis, that don't judge me by the work that I get paid to do on a daily basis, but judge me by what I do when I'm off the clock. And having the opportunity to advocate, work for our students, and to make sure they're connected to the success that they deserve is something that I have true passion for and am just tremendously excited about, even the opportunity to be running for the Board of Education. Thank you.
Jill?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and for the sponsoring organizations and my fellow candidates. I want to tell you that I am asking for your vote and for your support so that I may continue to provide leadership for the schools in our city, in our state, and in our nation. I'm proud to be endorsed and supported by a broad range of people, from the state superintendent to all elected officials up and down the spectrum in San Francisco and around the state, and also by the Bay Guardian, the San Francisco Examiner, and others, the Democratic Party, and I'd be very proud to have your support too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before we conclude this evening, I just want to remind us all of something that I failed to mention at the top, which is that there are 7 commissioners on the Board of Education, and there are 4 positions which are up for election this year. So your votes are very, very important. So thank you to our co-hosts, and most of all to our candidates for being here and for sharing your priorities and your great ideas and your time with us. Good luck to all of you, and please make sure that your voice is heard at the polls on November 6th by voting for the Board of Education.